Welcome back. You're still on to Wake Up Nigeria, and of course it's Thursday. You know we love our books as they stand as a good foundation to knowledge. And joining us this morning to talk about his book is Ayo Oyeku, who writes fiction, poetry, and children's books. His works has appeared in several international anthologies.
Sure.
Welcome to the show, Ayo.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about Mafoya and the finish line.
Okay.
Quite an interesting read. It's a book filled with love, deceit, cheating. Well, what inspired you to write the book, basically?
I wrote the story in 2016.
Okay.
So I have this personal phrase that I tell myself over and over, like finish line, like I've made it to the finish line.
Okay.
The idea for the finish line is not really about sprinting per se. It's about setting goals and achieving them. Once I achieve a certain goal, I say, okay, yeah, I made it to the finish line.
Okay.
So subsequently, I developed into like, okay, let me create a story around kids who love sprinting, thereby creating competition around that, something like that.
Okay.
Then the story was just a basic story. Then I fell sick later. When I was now in the hospital, I just saw this image of a little girl caught up in a whirlwind, kind of. So I was like, okay, this is going from, you know, it's like, okay, I could do something better from just flat prose to an adventurous fiction.
Okay.
And this is a good idea.
Oh, great. So let's talk about Mafoya and the finish line here.
Okay.
Okay, so Mafoya. She was involved in, she took part in a race.
Exactly.
Would like you to tell us the story, basically.
I'm not saying everything.
No, just give us, tips and bits.
Tips and bits, okay. So the story is about 4 sprinters, actually, who represent the community. And they are all the fastest runners for their respective houses.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this, who is the best kind of thing, people have their fans, and Amina is the fastest.
Yes.
Everybody knows us to be fastest. She's the quickest, and Mafoya is second best. So Mafoya got tired of being second best, like, oh, I don't want to live under the shadow of someone else's glory. Like, I want to come first, I want to be the best. So seeing that she couldn't meet Amina's pace, so it's like she had to come up with a kind of trick.
Yes.
To
win the competition.
To win the competition, which she eventually did.
Yes.
And she did it so cleverly that others and the watching spectators didn't know what she did.
Yes.
There was only Amina and Mafoya and herself who knew what she did. And actually she succeeded that day, even though Amina was angry about it and all that. And the next day she was preparing for another race where she was coming up with a new trick on how to defeat Amina again. Okay,
so people can catch up on the rest, but let's talk about her experience in the animal kingdom, especially with King Zamzam.
Okay.
That was quite an interesting one. Okay.
Okay, so Amina got caught up by the whirlwind, and she was Mafoya got caught up in the whirlwind, and she was transported to an animal kingdom called Musanga. You know, Africans have a way of playing with vowels and consonants, and there's a nice blend to it. So when she got there, there's a king that was actually ruling, like a veto kind of ruling, you know. So who happens to be a lion, King Zamzam, who is like a king in that kingdom. And the idea was this: the king says, okay, I'll let you go back home if you can raise some of my fastest animals. So Mafoya was given the first challenge, which he succeeded at. But when he came to the next challenge,
it was her friend, the tortoise.
Yeah, so it became a battle of conscience and decision and bad habits, you know. And at the end, she now felt, okay, instead of challenging my friend, why don't you challenge the king?
Yeah.
So it was more like she was just facing her fears.
Yeah.
So, which is another part that I personally, even though I'm the author, I like about this story.
There's so many lessons actually anyone reading this book could actually learn from it. I actually learned a few lessons which I would like you to talk about. But first of all, I'd like to ask, what's the age group for this book?
Okay, basically the category of this style of writing is called early chapter. Which is basically for kids between 9 and 11.
Okay.
But for basic readership, anybody between 7 and 13 can actually read the book.
7 and 13, which is primary school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And what lessons will they take from this?
Well, there are numerous lessons to take from the story about being true, about being bold, about telling the truth, about living one's dream. And if you're wrong, you should be able to come out and correct your ears. Then there's this personal one, which is mine, which I said became a mantra, which is, for every time you succeed at a task, you've already made it to the finish line. Winning is not always until when the whole world is applauding you. If at the end of the day you're able to do well in your exams, you're able to support a friend, you're able to share your truth with others, you've actually made it to the finish line.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk about this and the other book, your other books which you have written. This is your 6th children's book.
Exactly.
What makes this one different?
Well, every book has its own journey.
Yeah.
And I think the journey for Mafoya is a bit different, which is the books I started writing when I was 13. And
you started writing since you were 13?
Yes, so I got my first publishing when I was 17. And I had my first published books, like 2 books in a year, when I was 19.
Wow.
So it's been not so easy, but it's been interesting. But when it came to Mafoya, because I was healed, I had to come out of that, to write the story. I was actually pitching the story for a competition. It's called the Golden Baba Prize. So I was hoping, okay, I could win this. So I did, but I didn't win. I was shortlisted for it. That was my first time of being shortlisted. So subsequently, then my publisher contacted me and like, okay, we'd like to see that story. Like, what's so special about it? And then a whole new journey began on it. And I would say, fine, it's my book, but the whole team worked on it, and my publisher had all kind of special effect that she put to it. So this, the best children's book I've written so far.
This is the best?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's pretty deep, you know, even for kids, you know, at that age, you know, from 7 to 13, having to read this book, because there's so many lessons you can take from it. Also, because there are lots of children who actually being pressured by their parents to do so well, you know, even in school. So, you know, and that also tells the story of Mafoya and her experience and what she had to learn, because she actually had to learn. She had just so many lessons she actually learned from, you know, the book, which is quite an interesting read. Really, really nice one here. Okay, so let's talk about, you know, so in conclusion, what would you, you know, say about the book?
Well, if it's fair, I want every home to have the book. For myself as a writer, going by my experience, I discovered that when you think you're actually writing for a child, you're actually writing for the parents too, because they also get to read it and pass that information to their kids. And then there's this popular term that we say that the hand that rocks the cradle nurtures a nation. But it's not just that. The writer that also writes for the children is also nurturing a nation. So there's a book that is going to impact the lives of children. This is going to be one out of many other books I'll be writing, and they will all be passing messages across to children so that we can build a brighter future for ourselves.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayo. Well done on this book.
And
I'm hoping that the next one will be, you know, as much as impactful as this one has been.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so Yomi and Mike have both taken over the kitchen from me, sadly, and I hope they don't finish all the time.